This is Deathsmiles by Cave. It sits at rank 9 on the STG rank list. But I actually cleared the game almost 2 years ago. It was my very first 1cc. Let me go back a little bit and try to explain and also remember exactly how it was that I went from being a guy with zero interest in shmups to a guy with a custom modded arcade stick and a YouTube series and now an STG podcast.
Hello and welcome to One Credit Chats, a podcast where I talk to people about shoot 'em ups.
There's a quote that I think about often, but I clearly don't remember correctly because when I try to Google it, I can't find it anywhere. I was pretty sure I read it in a nonfiction book by Chuck Palahniuk called Fugitives and Refugees, A Walk in Portland, Oregon, because that's what I always think about when I think about this line, even though I can't find it when trying to search through that book. Anyway, the line is something like this: "No one knows anything really true about themselves." I can't find that quote anywhere. Chat tells me that Elizabeth Ames wrote, "No one knows everything about anyone, not even themselves. Maybe least of all themselves." Which is pretty close, and it's a good quote. But the problem is that she wrote that in a book that was published in 2020, and this line has been stuck in my head since 2014, which is when I read Fugitives and Refugees, and then subsequently moved to Portland because I liked the book so much, and I wanted to be an author, and I thought that maybe if I went and lived in a place where smart people who wrote cool stuff lived, I could do it too. No one knows anything really true about themselves. The thing is, I don't know who wrote it, or if I made it up, which is pretty ironic if you think about it. If you're wondering where I'm going with this, then you can join the club. I didn't learn how to write cool stuff in Portland. I just wrote this glorified Tumblr post of an autobiography and worked a minimum wage job at Fred Meyer for a year. But this is the time in my life that I think about when I think about this quote, and I think about this quote just about every day of my life. No one knows anything really true about themselves. And that makes sense. And whoever wrote that line, people have been saying more or less the same thing for centuries. Plato said, "I know that I know nothing." He was cribbing off of Socrates, who said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing." But he also said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." So Socrates said that you can't really know anything, but it's also not worth living if you don't try to know yourself. But, I mean, what did that guy know? The reason that I mention all of this in a video that's supposed to be about getting a 1 credit clear in Deathsmiles is that when I try to think about how I became a person that cares about this, all I can think about is this. No one knows anything really true about themselves. The point of this quote, I think, is that you are the least qualified person to evaluate yourself because it's impossible for you to have the experience of observing yourself in a way that every other person who encounters you does. A stranger who spends 10 minutes talking with you knows more about what it's like to talk to you than you know what it's like to talk to yourself. They have an impression of you that is way closer to what the average person will have of you than the impression that you have of yourself or the impression that you think others will have of you. But I think it's a little deeper than that too, because there are things that I know that I do, but I don't know why I do them. And I think that's really what I'm stuck on. I can tell you how I got into shmups. What I'm interested in learning is why I got into them instead of, I don't know, knitting or online poker or terrorism. I don't know why I care about this. I don't know why there's an arcade stick sitting on my desk. I don't know why I want a shmup. I think that I do, but then again, no one knows anything really true about themselves. In my rank 4 video, I mentioned that this all kind of started with Undertale, which is true, I think. Undertale isn't a shmup, but the combat in the game is inspired by bullet hells, specifically Touhou. Toby Fox, in an interview that I can't read because I don't know Japanese, apparently said that he got into Touhou in middle school because he liked the idea of pushing yourself to go further in a really hard game just because you wanted to hear more of the music. He later made Undertale, a game about determination, or ketsui, in the face of overwhelming challenge. And the game is mechanically about dodging patterns of bullets, just like Touhou, and basically every other shmup if you really boil it down. I wonder if Toby knows why he made Undertale. Does he know why he cares so much about video game music? Or did he wake up one day having sold millions of copies of his RPG and composed music for Pokemon and Smash Bros and think, how did I get here? I don't know. I tried Toho and thought it was neat, but too hard, and it was kinda janky because it wasn't translated and didn't really run properly on Windows 10. So I remember searching online for other games like Toho. This is where I learned about Danmaku and STGs and the Shmups forums, and that's where I learned about 1 credit clears. That was really the concept that hooked me. I wanted to be in the club. I wanted to be like these guys on this forum who could play these hard games without using any continues. I admired not just their skill, but the fact that they cared enough about these games to work that hard to master them, even though there was no possible fame or fortune to be made in doing it. Mark from Electric Underground made a documentary about shmups called Passion Without Reason, and I think that's the perfect way to sum up fans of the genre. Passionate without reason. Why do they care? They don't know. No one knows anything really true about themselves.
But I'm not like a professional gamer or anything. This is my second time playing this game, and I just wanted to set a big challenge so there would be a big climax at the end of this video, but now, I don't know. We gotta try, right?
I made a somewhat serious attempt to get into making videos for YouTube about 5 years ago, and the first thing that I did that was relatively successful, and we're talking like maybe 1,000 views here, were these videos about a game called I Wanna Maker.
It's like Mario Maker, but for I Wanna Be the Guy games.
You have to shoot danger. Thank you. Thanks for the warning. I was just going to assume that this is going to be straight sailing over here, but so far nothing like just randomly falling from the screen. Like
I Wanna Be the Guy was one of the first Rage games.
This looks good. Okay. So what do we got here? Is that a... Okay. And Z to shoot. What's jump? What's jump? Tell me what jump is. Application paused. I don't want to pause the application. There. What's... Okay. R is restart.
It came out in 2007, just as YouTube was really taking off, and after James Rolfe had, even before the invention of YouTube, created the prototypical rage gaming channel, Angry Video Game Nerd.
This game sucks. Castlevania 1 and 3 are great classic...
Incidentally, AVGN is the first place I ever heard the word shmup. I Wanna Be the Guy is a really hard platformer.
Go! Go! Fuck! This is why I don't go outside! This is what happens! Fuck you, nature! Go! There you go.
It has all kinds of traps and precise jumps and seemingly impossible bosses. It spawned a community of players and developers who make fan games or original games inspired by it. Remember Battle Kid, the game that made these two guys some of the most popular people on YouTube?
Not a real NES game. Well, I mean, that's...
Bro, how about a little respect for the institution that is CVOC Games? Whoa.
Did you just come up with that?
Yes, I did.
That was pretty good.
Thanks, man. Whoa!
Come the fuck on!
Anyway, I made some videos about I Wanna Maker, and in doing so, I got to chatting with this one regular commenter I had who was really into these games. Through talking to them, I found out that there were thousands of these fan games. They even have an annual award show for them where they announce new projects and recognize the accomplishments that people have made in this hyper niche world of I Wanna Be the Guy fan games. I think I know why the people that love I Wanna Be the Guy love it. It's because they want to be the guy. It might actually be the most elegantly named video game I've ever seen. That's why I stole the title for this video series. The promise of the experience is right there. This is a super hard game that will make most people give up. Only the toughest, most determined gamers make it to the end. Do you want to be one of them? Do you want to be the guy? And I did. I played some of I Wanna Be the Guy, but I never finished it. Why? Why did that challenge not turn me into a guy on the I Wanna community forum making videos about those games, but clearing Deathsmiles turned me into a guy making the video you're watching now? I don't think it's a difficulty difference thing. Deathsmiles took me about 20 hours to beat, and even high estimates tell me you can beat I Wanna Be the Guy in less time than that. I don't know. I don't know why I care about the things that I care about instead of other things that it seems like I could have cared about just as easily. No one knows anything really true about themselves. But having said that, here's something that I think might be true about myself. I am terrified of failure. And that sucks because I fail constantly. Like when I moved to Portland to try and become an author, or when I tried to make that RPG about an ice cube wizard who can only do fire magic, or when I started a degree in theater. and then film, and then computer science, and then left university having never finished a degree in anything. Why did I bail on those degree programs? Because I was scared of failing. Have you ever seen a little kid start to spill something and then they just commit and fully dump it on the floor? That's my life, basically. Or at least that's what it feels like sometimes. So how did 1cc's or shmups in general ever appeal to me, a guy who will seemingly always choose quitting over failure? When I started this game, I did not think I would ever be able to beat it, genuinely. But I wanted to try anyway. For me, that was weird. I don't know what was different about that from any of the other challenges that I run away from. I would play for a few days and then leave the game untouched for weeks before picking it up again. I even uninstalled the game once or twice before eventually coming back to it. I was trying to give up, but I couldn't. Maybe it was because the stakes were so low. Because I knew no one would care one way or the other. So I've rambled my way through this thing trying to answer this question for myself, and I think maybe I just did it. So here it goes. Something that I think really is true about me. I cleared Deathsmiles because I needed a reason to be proud of myself. And as stupid as it may seem, as small a victory as that may be, I was. I am proud of myself for that. Here's something magical that these games taught me, and I think it's probably why I keep playing them, to keep proving it to myself. You can do more than you think you can. And then you can do more than that. And then you can do more than that. And the more times you prove yourself wrong about what your limitations are, the more you start to realize that your limitations aren't your limit. They're just the best you've done so far. And if you know that you can't do any better, well, no one knows anything really true about themselves. I'll see you next time.
Congratulations.